The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by taking part in this year's DAV 5K. For more information, visit dav5k.boston. The DAV 5K Boston is proudly presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Alrighty, as we wrap up the week here, we've got the kickoff of earnings season beginning today. Q3 earnings kicking off in earnest with a number of the major U.S. banks that reported earnings before the bell. It's Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you. And we start our discussion today with those bank earnings because prior to the open this morning, we saw JPMorgan, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup reports, 3 of your 4 major U.S. banks reporting. And then you also had a smaller bank in PNC that reported, and a couple other financial companies as well, in BlackRock, Progressive, and United Health. I basically consider a financial company. I mean, they're a health insurer, so I lump them in there. And, Mike, overall, when you look at the scorecard for all these companies, every single one of them beating earnings by a meaningful margin. What do we see here?
Yeah, so for the banking side of things, as is not entirely surprising, but was even better than expected, these banks are just raking in profit on your cash. I'm using the general your. It's not Chuck's cash, but my cash, your cash, anybody that has money sitting in the bank. Which
They're not
I
making
think
anything on your cash.
Your
cash is trash.
My cash is trash. Okay, well,
Your
everybody else's cash, they're making a bunch of money on. Why? Because the big banks are continuing to say we do not need to pay interest, especially on our checking accounts, but definitely even relatively minor relatively minor interest on our savings accounts. And yeah, maybe we'll have some promotional rates for new accounts and CDs, but by and large, we're going to be sitting on a whole bunch of cash and making what we refer to as net interest income. And those margins are as wide as they have been since the 1980s right now. And for at least the time being, some clients are shifting that cash around. We've seen that in recent quarters. But for the big banks, they are raking it in and doing so more than expected. As an example, JPMorgan saw $22.9 billion in net interest income revenue for the most recent quarter.
I would like to speak about what I believe to be the experience of being a big bank at this point in time. Is that something we can get into here?
I'm not exactly sure where you're going, but I think I have a sense. So, yeah, go for it.
So here's what's really interesting is all we've heard all year about the small banks is how difficult an environment it is for them. And I'm not here to debate that. I think it has been a really challenging year for smaller community banks, the 3,000 and some odd that there are in the U.S., a lot of them have probably had some very difficult decisions they've had to make in terms of trying to figure out how to navigate this rising interest rate environment. When we talk about the big banks, specifically J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citi, and Bank of America, those are your 4 monsters sure. in the U.S. in terms of their size. And I want to look at just overall profit levels, okay? And I'm not talking about profit margins. I'm not talking about, what they're doing in terms of earnings per share. I'm talking about actual dollars. What are we actually seeing in terms of dollars and profits here? And here's what we've seen. And this is not through Q3 because what I have here hasn't updated for everyone yet. But through Q2, JPMorgan Chase had net income profit almost $48 billion over the last 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Bank of America, profit of $30 billion over the last 12 months. Citigroup, profit of $13 billion. Even Wells Fargo, what is now the kind of the outcast amongst the group after, a number of failures of oversight internally.
Oh, come
Wells
on. You
Fargo,
can be meaner than that. Failures of oversight. After,
Okay, after fraudulently opening accounts for people without their consent and causing their credit to drop, which prevented them from buying homes that they wanted.
Much better. Thank you.
Yes. Still $16 billion in profit for the last 12 months. So if you add all of this up, it's north of $100 billion in profits for the four largest banks over the last 12 months. I know that we often talk about how banking, especially when you're a smaller bank now, you're almost regulated like a utility to a certain extent in that there's only so much you can do. You don't have many levers to pull anymore.
You mean larger bank, right?
No, smaller banks.
Okay.
Like the smaller banks now, you really can't do much different.
Yep.
From each other. Like you have not much that you can do. I know that I'm not talking about the capital requirements, but in terms of like how you can actually lend, you don't really have that much differentiation between most of them. The large banks, tougher regulatory environment in terms of what you can do. It's even less forgiving as far as what you can do, but it's also a very cushy spot right now because these banks are also more than the small banks are. They're regulated to stay in business. They're regulated so they can't make, profits, to a certain extent just because, hey, there's only so many ways that you can lend at this point. But it's also really hard for these big banks to produce big losses as well. And this is what we're seeing right now is for all of the talk that Jamie Dimon puts out about, and I was reading today the quotes from him about, how he sees this environment right now, and I'll read a couple of them. Quote, "This might be the most dangerous time the world has seen in decades. These geopolitical events may have far-reaching impacts on energy and food markets, global trade, and geopolitical relationships." And he talked about the, quote, "largest peacetime fiscal deficits ever." So he's talking about, hey, there's all this bad stuff that could hurt us. Could is the operative word there.
Well, I think could hurt the collective us being the U.S. economy and probably not JPMorgan Chase.
And that's what I get to in this is the only time in history that JPMorgan has had higher profits than it has right now over a 12-month period was September of 2021 after Q3 of 21.
Yeah.
Other than that, profits have never been better. Same thing for Bank of America. Wells Fargo's had some better days, before, they kind of peaked in 14-15 before some of their indiscretions came to light. And Citigroup, interestingly enough, just is kind of lagging everyone else for reasons I don't get into the micro details on the banks, but these banks are insanely profitable.
So what do you make? Because normally when you think about an industry that is flush with cash and operates among an industry with peers that are very much less so and struggling, my immediate mind goes to acquisitions. And I think what's interesting here is that for a lot of reasons, JPMorgan probably can't be proactive here, and Bank of America likewise can't be proactive and say, hey, we're going to go gobble up a bunch of other banks because regulators won't allow them. But on the other hand, when Jamie Dimon makes statements like this about the economic problems and real challenges, if and when those come, just like they did with First Republic, who's going to be the first that the regulators come knocking at to say, hey, can you come pick up these banks that failed here and come pick up the pieces for us? It's interesting. It's a normal dynamic where you would say, oh, yeah, JPMorgan, they're going to go buy a bunch of competitors. They won't, but if they fail, they'll be more than happy to gobble them up because that's been a successful model.
This does get at this thing that I struggle with them because when we were talking about Silicon Valley Bank and its collapse, I noted that, look, the U.S. does not need 3,000 banks. It doesn't. I'm not saying that you need to have 4, okay, but there's middle ground between 4 and 3,000 because there's just not much differentiation between them. You can still have a small regional bank and have 500 of them instead of 3,000. But the other piece that I do struggle with is these larger banks, as they get bigger and more important, it becomes even more of a self-fulfilling prophecy that they are not just too big to fail, but like too big to even get close to failing. And that's not something that I like, because I like competition. And so what I'm trying to reconcile in my head is we need fewer banks overall, in my opinion. I don't think we need 3,000 of them. But I also think that these big four could serve to be broken up a little bit, because I don't like the idea that any institution is above failure for its problems. And right now, these are clearly too big to not even fail, but too big to even consider failing. And that, to me, is not a good thing either.
Well, yeah, it's not a good thing because we have seen in the past too big to fail institutions, A, fail and then need to be bailed out, and B, take advantage of customers because of, I don't know, lack of competition or just bad management and bad oversight. Again, I don't think the Wells Fargo issues are going to repeat themselves, but if you have these companies become so large that they can abuse customers, it does become really problematic.
Let's take a quick break. Mike, do you want to talk about Wells Fargo on the back end of this?
Do you have anything else to add on them? They did the same thing that JPMorgan did. They boosted their profits based on making more interest.
Yeah, there's not much there. Why don't we take a quick break then, and when we come back, let's talk about bank deposits, because this is something that's interesting to me, and where deposits are flowing, whether they're coming in, whether they're going out. We'll talk about that when we return.
The latest news on inflation and how the markets are reacting every morning, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K Boston. Let's meet their CEO, Mark Vonner.
I served proudly in the Marine Corps from 1981 to 1984 and was honored to receive the U.S. Marine Corps Expeditionary Medal, one of the oldest decorations still issued to active duty personnel. I started Veterans Development Corporation to give back to the veteran community. Many of my employees are former veterans, and it is my distinct pleasure to work with them each and every day. This is why I'm so excited to be partnering with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts on this year's DAV 5K. If not for the DAV, many of our disabled veterans would not have access to critical services that they need to live comfortably. I hope that by telling my story, many more of our veterans will achieve their goals and dreams post-service.
Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 11th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston. Beneficiary designations are critically important if you want your assets to be distributed efficiently and protected from probate or the nursing home. Naming your estate the beneficiary of an IRA or life insurance policy can offer significant benefits that include avoiding the probate process and enjoying enhanced estate tax reduction. It can also reduce the possibility of creating any income tax issues on your required minimum distributions. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new free guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. There's nothing more important than protecting your assets and providing lifelong comfort for your family. So call Cushing & Dolan today. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Winter is coming, and before you know it, the sun will set at 4 p.m. and the frosty chill will be back in the air. It's time to plan ahead. Get out of the cold and into the sun in one of the most fabulous vacation spots in the Caribbean, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Enjoy world-class cuisine, picturesque beaches, rich history, and spectacular weather all year round. Whether you're going for a romantic getaway or a fun family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands has everything you need to enjoy an incredible vacation. Travel from the Northeast could not be easier, and there's no money to exchange or passport required. America's Caribbean is St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three. Paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. Visitusvi.com.
Required minimum distributions are a critical part of your retirement planning. The laws regarding these distributions has changed with the passing of the Secure Act 3 years ago, which means if you don't withdraw the proper amount when you're supposed to, you could face a 50% tax penalty. Hi, this is Susan Powers from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we don't want you to make that mistake. Let us help you learn about RMDs and how they work so that you can avoid these tax implications. Our firm has a brand new guide available right now called Understanding RMDs. In it, we'll walk you through the steps of calculating your RMDs so that you withdraw the right amount at the right time. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your copy of this new free guide, or request it right now from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play the Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. Fall is here, and now's the perfect time to get a head start on your next vacation. The U.S. Virgin Islands are the top Caribbean destination so far this year, according to Travel Pulse. Explore St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and enjoy incredible beaches, world-class dining, and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no passport required or money to exchange. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
According to data from the FDIC, the average deposit interest rate that is paid, or that was paid, on U.S. bank deposits in the second quarter of this year was 1.78%, still 3.2 percentage points below the average effective Fed funds rate at nearly 5%. Mike, what this tells me is that the bulk of the money that is sitting in the U.S. banking system right now, not even just in the U.S. financial system, but specifically the money that is at commercial banks right now, people aren't shopping around in order to earn extra interest, and they're costing themselves money by doing so.
Quite a bit of money. I mean, you can...
Billions of dollars.
Without looking very hard. Well, if everybody started looking, then the rates would come down, right? That's how supply and demand of this stuff works. But the...
Net, it would go up, though. Yes, the average would go up.
Yes, the average would go up if people were shopping more, no doubt about it. Because, I mean, what can you get for a 9-month or 1-year CD these days?
North of 5.
North of 5%, without honestly shopping too hard. And so... Look, there's a lesson to be had here about, being a little bit more diligent with cash deposits, regardless of the inconvenience. I do wonder, I guess, how much of that is this just of insured deposits or it's total deposits, right?
This is
total deposits.
Total deposits, yes.
So you do have to wonder, right, how much of this is corporations that are just saying, hey, the extra interest isn't worth it to us because so much of our deposits are uninsured, so we need to keep it with a giant bank like Wells Fargo or JPMorgan who aren't going to pay us. But for those...
I don't think that's the case.
No?
If you're a big company, you don't park that money at the bank. You park it in a 1-month treasury.
That's not what we learned after the Silicon Valley
Well,
Bank
no,
collapse, was it?
Okay, if you're not dumb. Okay. Unfortunately, there were a lot of dumb... not investment bankers, VCs.
Yeah.
Who thought they were smart, but in fact were
not.
They might be technically smart, but they were logistically dumb.
So, regardless of where it is, it does tell you that, hey, from a personal finance perspective, you're missing out on a boatload of free cash here by not shopping around. The other thing it tells you, though, about the health of these banks is that net interest income that we saw this quarter, who knows, but seems unlikely to stick around for long.
The other thing that there's a great chart here from the FDIC that this was published in the Wall Street Journal this morning that I think is a fantastic one that talks about the percentage of deposits at banks that are time deposits. And time deposits, if you're not familiar with the term, it's another word for CDs, basically a deposit that is locked up for a set period of time as opposed to being available on demand with no penalties. This is fascinating, and it's not surprising given where interest rates went in the last 30 years, but since 1984, CDs, or rather time deposits, peaked at 50.9% of all bank deposits in 1989. Over half the money in banks in 1989 was in CDs or something similar, which is wild to me. That bottomed in the first quarter of 2022 at 6.3%. 6.3%. We went in a span of
fraction, yeah.
In a span of 35 years, we went from over half of all money at banks being in time deposits to basically 1 out of every $20. And now, with rates having risen, you're seeing it moving in the opposite direction, which is what you see during interest rate hiking periods. We're now back up to 13.1% as of the second quarter. But it just speaks to how the mindset has shifted, in that if you are a millennial, or even to a certain extent, probably a large portion of Gen Xers probably never had a CD in their life other than whatever Blink-182 put out.
Yeah, it is wild to think about, because you're right. Prior to the Great Financial Crisis, or after the Great Financial Crisis, it just didn't make much of a difference. Folks, if you're out there and maybe you're sitting on a lot of cash, or maybe you're sitting on CDs and trying to figure out, like, hey, what is really the best option if I have money that's not being invested today and not working for me? What are the alternatives out there, and how do they all work? Would love to talk to you and kind of help you sort through that, right? How is it going to line up with your personal financial situation? How do you take a look at your cash and make sure, from a timing perspective, it's going to be ready and available for you, but working for you? Because like Chuck just mentioned, for the first time in decades now, you can actually have your money working for you in a meaningful way. Folks at Armstrong Advisory Group would love to chat with you and help you work through those questions. The phone number to reach us is 800-393-4001. We've got representatives of the Armstrong Advisory Group available and ready to talk to you, actually real live human beings. The number again is 800-393-4001, or you can check out a lot of great details on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Finally, a piece that I can agree with, at least as far as the headline goes, for the Federal Reserve and inflation. This inflation report won't let the Fed declare victory.
Quite obviously not, yeah.
Well, but
it shouldn't, at least.
Did you see Paul Krugman's tweets yesterday?
No.
Okay. So this is, and again, Paul Krugman is a smart dude. Okay, that's, putting it mildly, like, guy won a Nobel Prize. His tweet yesterday, 22 hours ago: "The war on inflation is over. We won at very little cost." And then he has a chart of CPI x food, energy, shelter, and used cars. Yes, if you exclude half of the CPI, you won. I just want to point out this is the exact same mistake that Arthur Burns made at the Fed back in the 1970s, where he said, no, this is transitory. Keep giving me smaller subsets of data because the energy prices are transitory or the food price. You can't just strip away all this stuff and say you won.
Well, you can say it. It doesn't make it reality.
It doesn't reflect well on you. Especially Paul Krugman knows better. He's not a dummy.
Lived through it.
He's not. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, let's see, we got Wall Street Watch right after this.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
Hi, guys.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K Boston. Let's meet their CEO, Mark Vonner.
I enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 18 years old, joining a long line of family members who also served our country. After my service, I connected with the VA healthcare systems where I attended meetings with disabled veterans and learned for the first time about the DAV. I was so impressed with the work they do to help millions of veterans, including providing necessary services like transportation, education, and financial opportunities. Today, I stand a proud partner of the DAV and the 2023 DAV 5K. My company, Veterans Development Corporation, is a general contracting firm working with many disabled veterans, and I hope that by sharing my story, many other disabled veterans will be able to reach their goals once they conclude their service.
Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 11th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston. Winter is coming, and before you know it, the sun will set at 4 p.m. and the frosty chill will be back in the air. It's time to plan ahead. Get out of the cold and into the sun in one of the most fabulous vacation spots in the Caribbean, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Enjoy world-class cuisine, picturesque beaches, rich history, and spectacular weather all year round. Whether you're going for a romantic getaway or a fun family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands has everything you need to enjoy an incredible vacation. Travel from the Northeast could not be easier, and there's no money to exchange or passport required. America's Caribbean is St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three. Paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. Visitusvi.com.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with a master's in taxation. Today we're talking about choosing beneficiaries for your IRA. Todd, what is the best way to set up designated beneficiaries for qualified plan assets from both a Medicaid and estate tax planning perspective for a married couple?
Yeah, IRAs are difficult to deal with, but many options. The best option generally is if you're married, husband and wife, whatever, the spouses can be each other's beneficiary. And that's how you normally do it. However, if you happen to be over or at age 73, which is the required beginning date for minimum distributions to come out, and you're doing estate Medicaid planning, and you have an irrevocable trust, you can also have a testamentary trust built into your will. If you do that and you meet those two requirements, then you can name the estate the designated beneficiary of your IRA. And under the new Secure Act 2.0, it allows you to do this without causing adverse required minimum distributions, and it will allow you to protect the assets immediately from the nursing home for the surviving spouse and shelter it for estate tax purposes all at the same time.
Educate yourself about the estate planning process. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request your copy right at their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are trading in mixed territories. Investors digest third quarter earnings from several major banks that came in really stronger than expected. including from the likes of JPMorgan Chase, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo. At the moment, the Dow is up by over 0.5% or 185 points. S&P 500 is up by 0.25% or 11 points, and the NASDAQ off by 25 points into negative territory, just under 0.25%. Russell 2000 off by nearly 0.33%. At the moment. 10-year Treasury yield, that is down by 8 basis points, now at 4.62%, and crude oil jumping by 3.5%, now at $85.88 a barrel. Aside from banks, United Health also reported third quarter results ahead of the open this morning, beating on both earnings and revenue expectations. The largest health insurer by revenue posted adjusted earnings of $6.56 per share, above forecasts of $6.32 per share, while the company generated revenue of $92.4 billion, also above estimates of $91.37 billion. United Health shares are up by 2%. Meanwhile, Dollar General is welcoming back the return of Todd Vasos to its CEO role, replacing Jeff Owen less than a year after his appointment. Dollar General has missed profit estimates in all of its past 4 quarters. Citing a conversation with Vasos, JPMorgan analysts said that Vasos will be focused on improving in-stock levels at its stores, tidying up operations, refocusing labor investments, and implementing new accounting methods to minimize inventory shrink. That stock is jumping by over 8%. And JD.com shares are off by 4% after Morgan Stanley downgraded the Chinese e-commerce giant to equal weight and slashed its price target, citing weak consumer demand. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Mike, there's a piece in the Wall Street Journal today talking about the Federal Reserve and specifically this idea that's been talked about in the last really couple of weeks that because bond yields have risen even without the Fed doing anything, that, hey, that's a reason why the Fed might be able to pause where otherwise it would not be able to. This is an idea that I do find interesting because I think it makes sense and I find it, logically coherent. Mark Fandetti, I know, said, no, it doesn't quite work like that, but it's something that people are talking about now that previously they were not.
Yeah, so I think I can understand with you the practical implication here that, hey, with longer-term rates now higher, that has had a tightening effect on the economy. I think where Mark brought up a important point here, I think it was a week ago, is basically the exact same point that James McIntosh is making from the Wall Street Journal, which is if you're going to have that view, then you needed to have that view a year ago when the exact opposite was happening, right? A year ago, what was happening was the Fed was raising rates. Long-term rates weren't moving at all, were arguably stimulative at that point. And the Fed didn't look at that and say, oh, boy, we've got to go a lot higher because long-term rates are moving. They just said, no, we're doing our job. It's working. Everything's fine here. And so if you're not going to take the opposite end of that approach, like it goes back to consistency around how they are making these decisions. And I think that's the part that I agree with Mark on. There does not seem to be much consistency of thought here in terms of how everything works. And there's a clear bias towards lower rates.
Yeah, I do think that makes some very concrete sense there. And look, the big thing is, I've said this since the start of 2022. At every opportunity where the Fed could have said, hey, you know what? This is something that, could, be concerning to us, but we need to press on with what we're doing anyways. The Fed always took the easier way out, meaning, hey, we're not going to be as aggressive as we need to be.
Yeah.
They're more worried about breaking the economy into recession than breaking the economy with persistently high inflation.
Because let's go with a hypothetical here that seems entirely possible today. We've got war in the Middle East. We've got a crisis in Israel. That so far has led to longer-term rates coming down because during times of crisis, oftentimes there's a flock to safety being oftentimes U.S. Treasury bonds. That's been relatively mild so far, right? We've come down from 4.8 down to where are we today? 4.65 perhaps.
Yeah, it's been less than 0.25%. You know, I think we peaked at like 4.85 or 4.88 intraday. So 0.25% if you're including intraday moves.
But we've acknowledged that, hey, you know, should this crisis spread, then, you know, JPMorgan or Jamie Dimon said it this morning that should this crisis spread, it could be a real threat to the economy, and you could see long-term rates coming down substantially further. I genuinely do not believe that if that crisis spread further and long-term rates came down, you'd have a single Fed official saying, "Oh boy, long-term rates came down, so we need to hike the Fed funds rate in order to tighten more."
Right. It's kind of a one-sided view. It's the Fed trying to take the approach of, well, we don't need to do any more because the market's doing it for us. But if the market moves the other way, they don't say, "Oh, gee, now we need to tighten." Like I get it completely, and it is bothersome to me that the Fed at every opportunity, whenever they've had a chance to really, you know, take control of the bond market, they've largely passed on it.
Yeah,
they really have, and I get that to a certain extent because you don't want to be blamed for causing a recession, but man, this is the job you've chosen.
Yeah,
not to go all Godfather on you, but is that Godfather or is that Scarf? No, that's Godfather, right?
I don't know.
This is the job we've chosen. I think that's the Godfather.
Okay.
But look, when you decide that you want to sit on the Federal Reserve Open Markets Committee, man, you are responsible for this stuff.
Yeah, it's about making tough decisions.
And that means that you need to own it. It's refusing to make the decision is still making a decision.
I will be particularly interested. We pretty much agree at this stage that there's not much that could happen that would cause the Fed to raise rates at their November 1st meeting. I don't know what data point you could possibly get that would make them change their mind on that. But I'll be very interested to see what questions they receive and how they answer questions about the situation in Israel. Right? Because we remember how they answered those questions about the situation in Ukraine, and they were dead wrong. Their answer was, with hindsight, incorrect. And so have they learned? Are they going to give the same response that we don't know what sort of inflationary or deflationary pressures could be exerted from this war? Or are they going to acknowledge that, you know, last time there was this problem, it was inflationary in one direction only?
This is different, though.
Go on. Talk to me.
When you're talking about Ukraine and Russia, you're talking about two countries that are significant producers of raw materials of all kinds.
Sure.
Whether it's agricultural, whether it's energy, whatever it may be. Israel, for its importance in the region, its main exports are technology. You know, it's not something. Israel being in conflict with Palestinians in Gaza doesn't affect how much oil is produced in the region.
No, certainly not. But you're talking about the risk of the spill. The risk here is the spillover risk.
But that was different, and that's why it's different from
Sure.
the Russia-Ukraine situation, because even without any spillover, you still have all kinds of – there's far more globally from a supply chain perspective that is tied to Russia and Ukraine than there is Israel. And to put this in perspective, I'm pulling it up right now just so that I can – have this all here. Russia's GDP, about $2 trillion a year. Israel's is a quarter of that. So it's just by virtue of scale. And then when we look at, hey, what's actually being produced in Israel, it's very different fundamentally from what you have in Russia. I mean, the trade exports that you have are completely different in terms of what they're actually sending out. I mean, the biggest trading partner with Israel is the U.S. Main things that the U.S. imports from there: computers, circuits, aircraft parts, other defense equipment, and cars. You know, it's like,
yeah,
okay,
yep, it's different.
It's just not. It's not the same. So I think the Fed could, in this case, assuming things stay on the scale they are right now, just from a global perspective, say, yeah, we don't think this is going to impact inflation. If you start getting Syria, or Lebanon or Iran involved, then if the Fed's not making alternative plans, we've got a problem.
Yeah, and that's what they need to acknowledge.
Yes. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, piece in the Wall Street Journal asking whether or not the Social Security cost of living adjustment is enough for 2024.
Text us at 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we are covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Winter is coming, and before you know it, the sun will set at 4 p.m. and the frosty chill will be back in the air. It's time to plan ahead, get out of the cold and into the sun in one of the most fabulous vacation spots in the Caribbean, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Enjoy world-class cuisine, picturesque beaches, rich history, and spectacular weather all year round. Whether you're going for a romantic getaway or a fun family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands has everything you need to enjoy an incredible vacation. Travel from the Northeast could not be easier, and there's no money to exchange or passport required. America's Caribbean is St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three. Paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. Visitusvi.com.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
Required minimum distributions are a critical part of your retirement planning. The laws regarding these distributions has changed with the passing of the Secure Act 3 years ago, which means if you don't withdraw the proper amount when you're supposed to, you could face a 50% tax penalty. Hi, this is Susan Powers from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we don't want you to make that mistake. Let us help you learn about RMDs and how they work so that you can avoid these tax implications. Our firm has a brand new guide available right now called Understanding RMDs. In it, we'll walk you through the steps of calculating your RMDs so that you withdraw the right amount at the right time. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your copy of this new free guide, or request it right now from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Beneficiary designations are critically important if you want your assets to be distributed efficiently and protected from probate or the nursing home. Naming your estate the beneficiary of an IRA or life insurance policy can offer significant benefits that include avoiding the probate process and enjoying enhanced estate tax reduction. It can also reduce the possibility of creating any income tax issues on your required minimum distributions. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new free guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. There's nothing more important than protecting your assets and providing lifelong comfort for your family. So call Cushing & Dolan today. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. This is your home for the most comprehensive coverage of the economy and the trends on Wall Street. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Social Security cost of living adjustment for 2024 will be a 3.2% bump, averaging $59 for the average beneficiary, though individual checks will obviously change by different amounts given how much you were making previously. And that's obviously much less than the 8.7% bump that beneficiaries received this year. And the question posed by a piece in the Wall Street Journal is, hey, is that 3.2% bump enough?
That seems like an overly vague question to me. Is it enough for what, the average American to suddenly come into financial certainty in retirement? No, most certainly not. We know that the average person collecting Social Security does not get nearly enough to be able to live your life on it, but that's not exactly what the program was designed for either. So is it enough? I mean, it's consistent. It's consistent with the way that we've measured and increased Social Security in the past. I'm sure there are plenty that would argue that, hell no, it doesn't keep pace with inflation at all, and my costs are considerably higher than the pace of increase that we've seen from Social Security over the last few years.
Yeah, I don't really have anything broader to say there. I mean, obviously, there are a number of costs that have gone up by far more than 3.2%, most notable. And, again, these are things that a lot of families need to spend money on. I mean, we've talked a lot about what we've seen with car insurance and how those rates are up 19% year over year because of a number of different factors, whether you're talking about, again, higher repair costs, whether you're talking about the fact that the Florida insurance market is basically broken down at this point for a number of reasons, and so premiums are going through the roof down there. There are a number of different things that are factoring in, but obviously if you want to drive your car legally, you still need to have auto insurance. So these are things that are going to be challenging to deal with. And the other thing to remember is that for seniors, folks, 65 plus, they have a different set of expenditures than folks who are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s.
So maybe that's the appropriate way to tackle this question, Chuck, is do we feel that seniors' experience around inflation has been harder hit than the average person over the last 3 years, right? We've undergone now the worst inflation that we've seen since the 1980s based on CPI and how we measure it. Has that been less inflationary or more inflationary than for, say, a 45-year-old if we think about the average adult?
Well, let's look at it this way. If you are a senior and you own a home already, your inflation picture has been much better.
Yep.
Because housing makes up a huge portion of CPI and spending, and whether you own a home with a mortgage, a fixed-rate mortgage that hasn't gone up, you've benefited. Whether you own a home free and clear, you've benefited. It's if you are renting or if you are trying to buy a home, you've been hurt.
So from that perspective,
from that perspective, a greater proportion of seniors own their homes compared to folks who are younger, and so they've benefited on that front.
How about other areas of high inflation? We've talked about, vehicles have been one of the highest areas of inflation. Can you maybe make a compelling argument that seniors have been more impacted by higher car prices than the average person? I would guess probably not, actually, because average miles driven per generation is probably lower on people collecting Social Security compared to working adults.
I'd say it's neutral. I don't know.
It's tough to extrapolate one way.
You might drive less to work, but more to the golf course or road trips.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Other places, seniors have far higher spending on health care.
Yep.
Than other demographics. The problem with this is even the CPI admits they don't have any good way to measure health care costs.
Nope. But Medicare costs came down this year, and so from that one perspective, that chunk that comes out of your Social Security check has been relatively muted in terms of total cost over the last 3 years.
So I think if you're looking at it overall, the inflationary pressures faced by seniors just by virtue of, on average, not having to deal with housing the same way that folks who are younger have to deal with it, might be a little lighter, but a little lighter still doesn't mean that you feel good about it.
The main area where I think every single senior citizen out there for the last 2 decades can point to say Social Security costs have not kept up with my expenses has to do with that healthcare piece, right? Because what we are not doing a good job of capturing in CPI and not really talking about it all here is the outrageous cost of long-term care for older adults, right? That is a piece that has increased. I would be interested to compare that to the cost of college education, because the increase in cost in that specific area has been astronomical, and that would be a very compelling argument to me to say, hey, this is just an area that inflation does not measure appropriately, and we experience as seniors that nobody else does.
The other place that I think you could make an argument that seniors probably are facing as much or more pain from inflation as younger generations is on the utility side of things. The reason that I'll say that is, again, just if you look at it in terms of behavior, Mike, is there a smaller or larger percentage of people 65 plus working compared to people younger?
Much smaller.
You're in your home more.
Yeah.
You're having to pay more for utilities at home because you're using the electricity and the heat more than you are if you are out of the house working every single day. That is absolutely a place, especially in New England, where seniors have gotten hurt far more, in my opinion, than younger generations.
Okay, I can buy that. You also might be heating a smaller home on average. You also might be not heating every room in that home because it's a couple there instead. So yeah, again, a lot of these things are wishy-washy. I think there's a few that you can really point to. Long-term care costs, clearly an expense that seniors bear that others do not, but benefiting on the housing side, I think, is pretty obvious there. So yeah, it's like anything else. It's a mixed bag, and it's tough to make a compelling argument that, for this generation, the inflationary experience has been far different from others.
And everyone's personal experience is different. I mean, I'm sure that if Tucker were to pull up the text line, I'm sure there's people of all ages yelling at me, telling me that, no, my situation's different from what you outlined. So I get that too. Like, I'm not saying this is easy for anyone, because dealing with high inflation, it sucks for everyone. I'm not trying to make the case that anyone got a free pass. It's been hard for everyone. So I fully acknowledge that, even if there are some broad differences that we can talk about here. Let's take a quick break. Hour 2 of the Financial Exchange coming up in a bit.
Hi, folks. It's Susan and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a brand new guide out this month, Understanding Changes to RMD Rules. Mike, the rules for RMDs are different when it comes to inherited IRAs. How are they different from your own RMD?
Yeah, so your own required minimum distribution generally starts in your 70s, with a few very limited exceptions on your traditional retirement accounts. When you get into inherited, you have a lot of different paths with a lot of different rules. So I guess starting off first with the most basic is, if you leave your IRA or your 401k to a spouse, it's pretty simple. They treat it as their own retirement account, or they have the option to, and the RMDs are based on their own age. Where the complexities start getting into is when you leave them to a non-spouse. Here, there is an entirely new set of rules that was just changed in the last few years. It applies both to traditional and Roth retirement accounts, and the rules are actually so new that the IRS has not yet issued permanent guidance on how this is all going to work. But the general theory here is that you're going to need to empty out that retirement account within 10 years, with a few limited exceptions. Where the IRS is still issuing some new guidance is around how much you'll need to take out every year during that 10-year window, and so we'll see where that goes over the next few years.
There are certainly more complexities when it comes to an inherited IRA. You can get the details by requesting our guide, Understanding Changes to RMD Rules. You can do that at 800-393-4001 or request a copy online at armstrongadvisory.com, 800-393-4001 or armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K Boston. Let's meet their CEO, Mark Vonner.
I enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 18 years old, joining a long line of family members who also served our country. After my service, I connected with the VA healthcare systems where I attended meetings with disabled veterans and learned for the first time about the DAV. I was so impressed with the work they do to help millions of veterans, including providing necessary services like transportation, education, and financial opportunities. Today, I stand a proud partner of the DAV and the 2023 DAV 5K. My company, Veterans Development Corporation, is a general contracting firm working with many disabled veterans, and I hope that by sharing my story, many other disabled veterans will be able to reach their goals once they conclude their service.
Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 11th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for the impossible for you to turn down booking a trip to St. Croix. For a minimum 5-night stay at participating resorts, you'll receive a $250 air credit per person over the age of 16. That could be up to $1,000 savings for a family of 4. Act now, because travel must be completed by December 31st of this year. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2023 when reserving your spot. St. Croix is known for its incredible history, world-class dining, gorgeous beaches, casinos, and golf. Winter is coming to New England, so visit usvi.com and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Enjoy the island of St. Croix and all it has to offer. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2023. Plan your dream vacation right now. That's visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2023.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Spouses generally serve as the beneficiary to your IRA or life insurance policy, but naming your estate the beneficiary has quite a few benefits. Your goal is to protect your assets from probate and the nursing home, and by naming your estate as a beneficiary, you can avoid the probate process, lessen the chance of creating any income tax issues on your RMDs, and enjoy enhanced estate tax reduction. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their brand new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. Learn about these benefits and others and provide peace of mind for you and your family during your retirement years. Call 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online by visiting our website at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
The federal government has changed the way we deal with required minimum distributions. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and these changes could have a major impact on your finances if you don't calculate your RMDs properly and take the withdrawals at the right time. You may choose to withdraw more than the minimum amount, but you should understand the potential impact if you do. It's also important to factor RMDs into all aspects of your financial strategy so that you have the ability to manage your taxable income now and in the future. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get a copy of your new free guide called Understanding Changes to RMDs. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by taking part in this year's DAV 5K. For more information, visit dav5k.boston. The DAV 5K Boston is proudly presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
It's a little bit after 11 o'clock here on the Financial Exchange, and in case you were excited by seeing a lot of green on the board when markets opened up, well, party's over, at least for now. The Dow is still positive, up 14 points, but the S&P's down 15, about 1/3%, and the Nasdaq struggling the most today, off 108 points, or more than 0.75%. 10-year U.S. Treasury is seeing money moving into it, so 10-year rates are down by 7 basis points to 4.64%. Oil West Texas Intermediate up about $3.10 a barrel to 86.01 on news that the United States is trying to tighten sanctions on Russian crude oil sales. And we've got gold up $49 an ounce to $19.32 an ounce right now. And in the crypto world, all eyes remain on the Sam Bankman-Fried trial, which is just wild, quite honestly.
It is pretty fun to watch, yeah.
I don't know that I'd say it's kind of horrifying to watch.
Yeah. I mean,
fun to watch is the circus. This is kind of a circus, I guess. Yeah.
No, you make a valid point. It is akin to watching a train crash without loss of life, and so it is dissecting what was very likely a massive fraud, and so that part is sad and devastating to a number of people.
Let's talk about something else that's sad and devastating, and that is the fact that all these people with low mortgage rates, they can't move away from their homes, Michael. It's so sad. They want to move, but they can't lose their mortgage.
This is a Wall Street Journal is just out there throwing haymakers today.
Just a whiny McWinester piece from them.
Well, I don't know.
It is, Mike. It is.
Well, so they're saying the title of the article here, you've never had it so good, which is why you're stuck. That's where I'm struggling a bit with the premise, is making this generalization that everyone out there right now is doing so incredibly well and whining about it.
No, but the people in this piece are.
That. Yeah, the people in this piece are absolutely being, yeah.
I mean, Mike, let me just read this to you.
Okay, go ahead.
pessimistic Americans are driving from the same old homes to the same old jobs and the same old cars. Gee, as if there's anything awful about liking the house that you live in and working at a place for an extended period of time and maybe not being a just rampant consumer and buying a new car every 2 years.
That's kind of where I'm getting at in this whole piece is I don't know anybody that's feeling that way. Like, who are these people that that are dissatisfied with owning a home and owning a car and not able to jump another 10% salary right now? I'm just not seeing
well, the
that
salary
human
I can
being.
understand. I can understand people who are like, hey, I'd like to get paid more.
Sure.
But the other piece is like, oh, passenger cars, we're now seeing a record length of time that people are owning them. I don't know, maybe people are waking up to the fact that buying a car every 4 years is a horrible way to spend your money.
Yeah.
I think this is a good thing that people are holding onto their cars longer. Here's another piece that that it talks about on this, again, because it's talking about, all the things that are just so hard right now when we talk about this. This is a person who's detailing here. He's reluctant to part with the home he bought a decade ago and the 3.3% mortgage he carries on it.
Like, woe is me. Like, you are.
So you decided that you have enough money to build a 300 square foot guest unit in your backyard for your parents. I mean, like, that's not a sob story. The sob story is, hey, I have a mortgage that I can't afford because I lost my job and my family's going to be out. Like, that's a sob story.
Right. Yeah.
Saying that you can't, you don't want to lose your 3.3% mortgage, and so instead you took your money and built somewhere for your parents to live in your backyard? That's not a sob story.
No, we're going to be covering later about actors and people that work on movie sets that do not make a lot of money who haven't gotten paid since May. Like, you want a sob story? Like, people are deciding how to put food on the table, and we're talking about not being able to buy a new home because interest rates are too high. Give me a break.
And another one, just because, again, I don't know what's going on here, but this is just, it reeks of entitlement. Mario Moretta's monthly gym membership in New York City would cost about $200 if he joined a First Things First. You don't need a $200 gym membership.
Yeah, let's just start there.
Planet Fitness is $10 a month, and it's fine. He's grandfathered in at $85 a month, a steep discount, even when he got it years ago. It feels like a steal, except when the hot water's out in the showers, live DJs blare music he dislikes, and he has to wake up 2 hours early to go in the morning to avoid the evening crowds. Every gym has evening crowds. Oh, I'm sorry, the hot water's out in the showers? Oh, no, what are we going to do? I guess you have to go home and shower.
So I think the only relevant piece to all of this is that there are a number of things about this economy that are not bad things about this economy. There are a number of things about this economy that make heavy levels of transactions unlikely. In the labor market, switching is not getting you paid the way that it did last year or the year before. In the real estate market, buying a new house compared to getting rid of your 3.5% mortgage doesn't seem like a good deal. Due to the price of new cars, selling your car and trading in for something else with a higher interest rate on that new car seems like a bad deal. And because of that, there are not as many transactions occurring in some of these spaces as has been the case over the last few years. None of that indicates signs of a weak economy, and nor should it. I hope it doesn't seep into people's optimism or pessimism about where they are in life right now. That seems crazy to me. Like, if you are owning a home and owning a car with a mortgage under 4% and a car loan under 6%, you are
I thank
as
my
lucky
lucky
as can
stars
be.
every day that I have a mortgage under 4%.
Yes.
It's one of the things that brings me the greatest joy in life.
You have 2 children, Chuck.
I'm a weirdo also. Like I get it, It's like I'm kind of a freak, so it's fine. But again, there are some things. Hey, yes, the job market is not as hot as it was. I can understand that being disappointing. Fully get that. But I'm stuck with this mortgage that is better than anything I could afford today. Be thankful for that.
I'll challenge you on the job market piece. I'm
Okay.
sorry. If you're going to sit here and complain about today's job market, go live through 2010s. Go live through 08. Like, I think you really need some context here if you're going to sit here today and say, I don't like this labor market. I'm sorry. There are very few people that can fit into that category. If you're going to complain about this job market, then you have to have been a manufacturer in the you have to have worked in manufacturing in the 1980s. That's the only person that's allowed to complain about this job market.
I'm okay with people because it's all relative to what we just experienced, and recency bias is a thing. Because if we're going to say, hey, you can't complain if you had it good, then basically no one in the U.S. can complain about anything ever. Because anyone living in the U.S. pretty much has it better than anywhere in history ever.
True.
And that would just be boring if we can't complain about anything.
Fair enough.
You know, we got to have a little something here. But, yeah, complaining that you're locked into a gym membership that is probably too expensive because $85 a month for a gym is just too expensive. And you got to wake up to go in the morning because is there any gym in the world where the afternoon is not busy?
I don't know. I haven't been to a gym in like 15 years, Chuck.
It shows.
You should know that.
I sure as hell haven't been either.
Tuck, you look great.
Questionable.
Mike, you could use a bowl of soup and a hot shower.
What?
Bowl of soup?
A bowl of soup? What are you talking about?
I'm saying I look homeless. Sorry.
What's that got to do with the gym?
I know. Let's go. It's a Friday. I'm trying to make a joke. Let's just move on. It didn't land. I'm sorry.
Stand by.
Crashing car, and then let's go into break. There we go. Okay. Quick break. Trivia's next? All right. Let's do that.
Yeah, get your soup there.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Required minimum distributions are a critical part of your retirement planning. The laws regarding these distributions has changed with the passing of the Secure Act 3 years ago, which means if you don't withdraw the proper amount when you're supposed to, you could face a 50% tax penalty. Hi, this is Susan Powers from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we don't want you to make that mistake. Let us help you learn about RMDs and how they work so that you can avoid these tax implications. Our firm has a brand new guide available right now called Understanding RMDs. In it, we'll walk you through the steps of calculating your RMDs so that you withdraw the right amount at the right time. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your copy of this new free guide, or request it right now from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K Boston. Let's meet their CEO, Mark Vonner.
I'm no stranger to the military community. My late uncle, Albert Warner, served proudly in the 1st Marine Division in World War II and gave the ultimate sacrifice for his country. I am surrounded by a family of disabled veterans, including my father, Victor, and brother, Timothy. I am a veteran, and I have dedicated my business and my life to helping veterans. My company, Veterans Development Corporation, works to help disabled veterans every day, and it's one of the key reasons why I'm such a big supporter of Dan Stack and the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. I am so thrilled to be proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K.
Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 11th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with a master's in taxation. Today we're talking about choosing beneficiaries for your IRA. Todd, what is the best way to set up designated beneficiaries for qualified plan assets from both a Medicaid and estate tax planning perspective for a married couple?
Yeah, IRAs are difficult to deal with, but many options. The best option generally is if you're married, husband and wife, whatever, the spouses can be each other's beneficiary. And that's how you normally do it. However, if you happen to be over or at age 73, which is the required beginning date for minimum distributions to come out, and you're doing estate Medicaid planning, and you have an irrevocable trust. You can also have a testamentary trust built into your will. If you do that and you meet those two requirements, then you can name the estate the designated beneficiary of your IRA. And under the new Secure Act 2.0, it allows you to do this without causing adverse required minimum distributions, and it will allow you to protect the assets immediately from the nursing home for the surviving spouse and shelter it for estate tax purposes all at the same time.
Educate yourself about the estate planning process. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request your copy right at their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Breaking business and financial news first throughout the day. Only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Still a little bit of trivia here on the Financial Exchange. It's brought to you by Applebee's. Choose from a variety of half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m., including half-price boneless buffalo wings, half-price spinach and artichoke dip, and half-price warm pretzels dipped in beer cheese. Gather with friends any day of the week at Applebee's and say hello to half-price appetizers served late night, because half off is just more fun. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood. Void where prohibited. Dine in only. Since today is Friday the 13th, let's take a look back at the horror movie classic, Friday the 13th. The movie was about a serial killer who stalks counselors at a summer camp. Spoiler alert, it was Jason's mom who was doing the killing. I haven't seen the movie, so thanks, Ben. Most of the stars of the movie were Broadway actors and thus largely unknown to film fans, except one who became a big movie star in the 80s and 90s. Trivia question today is simply, which famous actor played the character Jack in Friday the 13th? Once again, which famous actor played the character Jack in Friday the 13th? Be the ninth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. Excuse me. Oh, man. Whoa. I don't know what's going on with my throat right now. 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you'll win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt and be registered to win a $100 gift card to Applebee's. Be sure to include the keyword Applebee's in your text, and we'll give away that Applebee's gift card in the next segment. 617-362-1385, and the ninth correct response will be our winner. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mike, with with everything that's been going on in Israel and Gaza over the past week, different social media sites have been, as they typically are, front and center in terms of the place that people go now in order to get breaking news on what's happening, but also they're being watched closely to see how they deal with the obvious cases of misinformation that pop up on their platforms during this time period as well. And the company formerly known as Twitter is coming under some fire for how they're handling things.
Yeah, so probably unsurprisingly here, and we've talked about this, well, since the beginning of this week, how the company formerly known as Twitter is going to handle all of these situations, given that they have dramatically reduced their staff that would typically review posts that are attempting to incite violence or are just provably false. In terms of the data so far, X reported an average of about 8,900 moderation decisions a day in the 3 days before and after the attacks in Israel. When you compare that to Facebook, there were 415,000 moderation decisions made on Facebook. Now, these are different size platforms with different user bases, but Facebook is not, what does that make it, nearly 450 times larger in terms of a user base and postings than Twitter. And so the European Union in particular has asked, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter to X to address how they are handling all of these things. But I think giving X some special scrutiny right now for probably good reason.
I'm someone, Tucker, you're still on Twitter, yeah?
I am, yes.
I've found it interesting over the last few months in particular that I do think that the value of it has degraded as far as being able to separate signal from noise when it comes to news. I think there are a few different reasons for that, but it's not as potent as it used to be in terms of being able to get access to, breaking news very quickly, oftentimes more quickly and more accurately than you would otherwise in other places. And
Chuck, sorry to interrupt, but my understanding of that is it's not because that breaking news and real information isn't there. The problem that I've heard is that you have to wade through 10 piles of crap to get there first.
Here's how the whole thing has changed, in my opinion. There are two different ways that you can browse Twitter. The first is just through a chronological feed of the people that you follow. And the second is through an algorithm. It's the For You, which sends you topics that would be interesting to you. And the issue is that Twitter changed its verified user process shortly after Musk took over, and they made it so that you pay for verification. And what they do is then the algorithm that Twitter uses, it boosts what verified users post, basically. If they reply to something, those show up first before non-verified users. The problem is that a lot of people don't want to pay for verification, and so what you get at the top of basically everything is just a whole bunch of people who have paid whatever it is a month, like $7.99 or $8.99 or whatever it is. They've paid their way to the top of the replies or the algorithm or whatever you're looking at, and so you just see a bunch of crap that it might be freaking crypto ads that are, basically being put out there just because someone paid $8 a month to say that they're verified. And so it is really hard to sift through all of this. And I had expected that during this, Twitter would be one of the best places, if not the best place, to be able to get accurate information quickly. And it's been a mess, quite honestly.
Yeah, so that's from the user perspective, and that's very disappointing. What I haven't heard yet, but I expect that we will hear, it's still very recent, right? These attacks just happened, 6 days away from these attacks in Israel. Within a few weeks, I expect to hear that advertisers are very uncomfortable with the lack of moderation on X and what their ads are appearing next to, because that's the final plug, right? That's where X makes the vast majority of their money. And if I'm an advertiser right now, I'm probably not putting any ads on any social media platform because of that concern, but I'm especially not doing it on X or TikTok.
Well, no, you're still running ads on all these places now.
Ugh.
Like, no one's pulling out ad campaigns because of this.
Yeah.
But, and again, just the other things that have changed. Twitter, it was, I think, a week or two ago, they decided that when you are posting a link now, the headline from the link doesn't show up on the tweet or the Zed or whatever it's called now, the post. And so it just looks like a picture, because the idea that Twitter's trying to get at is we don't want people leaving because we want to keep them on Twitter. But instead you find it less useful because you don't want to click on anything because you don't know what the heck it is you're clicking on. It could be a picture of an apple, and you click on it, and it's about centipedes. And I don't like those.
That would be one of the probably more innocent options that
yes,
could occur
exactly.
with. Yeah.
You use your imagination to figure out what you could actually do. So I just find it very it's not as useful as it used to be. And I'm not saying this because I want it to be that way, because I think that Twitter was one of the most powerful ways to get information for the better part of the last decade. And it's just becoming challenging now as we go on here. So that's disappointing to me, because it's the only social media platform I'm on, quite honestly. and so I don't know what else to do. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we've got the trivia answer, and then we're talking about AI Obama.
The Financial Exchange is live on Facebook, so make sure to like our page and watch the guys break down the latest on the markets every day beginning at 10 on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
It happens all over Massachusetts,
Can you tie my shoes?
in every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Spouses generally serve as the beneficiary to your IRA or life insurance policy, but naming your estate the beneficiary has quite a few benefits. Your goal is to protect your assets from probate and the nursing home, and by naming your estate as a beneficiary, you can avoid the probate process, lessen the chance of creating any income tax issues on your RMDs, and enjoy enhanced estate tax reduction. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their brand new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. Learn about these benefits and others and provide peace of mind for you and your family during your retirement years. Call 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online by visiting our website at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The vibe like no other is back. The United States Virgin Islands, one of the top-rated destinations in the Caribbean, is making it nearly impossible for you to turn down booking a trip to St. Croix. For a minimum 5-night stay at participating resorts, you'll receive a $250 air credit per person over the age of 16. That could be up to $1,000 savings for a family of 4. Act now, because travel must be completed by December 31st of this year. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2023 when reserving your spot. St. Croix is known for its incredible history, world-class dining, gorgeous beaches, casinos, and golf. Winter is coming to New England, so visit usvi.com and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Enjoy the island of St. Croix and all it has to offer. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2023. Plan your dream vacation right now. That's visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2023.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with a master's in taxation. Today we're talking about choosing beneficiaries for your IRA. Todd, what is the best way to deal with qualified retirement plan assets, and can they be transferred to these irrevocable Medicaid trusts?
Great question, Tucker. Qualified retirement plan assets are difficult to deal with in the estate planning world. They're that round peg that you try to put in the square hole. It just doesn't fit well. Why? They have both income tax components associated with them and estate tax components, right? They are includable in your estate. However, if you wanted to put your IRA into a trust, into this irrevocable trust, you cannot do that. And not only into an irrevocable, you can't put it into a revocable. Why? In order to do that, you would have to take the IRA and liquidate it, pull all the money out and put it into your name, subject it to income tax, and then put possibly 40% less into the irrevocable trust. So that's why it's difficult to protect IRAs in advance from the nursing home. However, you could name the designated beneficiary of the IRA, the irrevocable trust, as part of your overall estate planning process. So that can be helpful. But it is a tough part of the estate planning world.
Educate yourself about the estate planning process. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary right now by calling 866-848-5699 or request a copy at LegalExchangeShow.com. Once again, 866-848-5699, or you can request the guide from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play The Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, trivia question today was which famous actor played the character Jack in Friday the 13th? Well, that would be Kevin Bacon. Bacon made his film debut in National Lampoon's Animal House in 1978. All is well. 2 years later, Bacon starred as Jack in Friday the 13th. Not so fun fact about Kevin Bacon is that he lost most of his life savings in the Bernie Madoff scandal. Did not know that. Winner of the Financial Exchange Show T-shirt was Wade from East Providence, and winners of the winner of the $100 Applebee's gift card for the week is Tom from Ogunquit, Maine. So congrats to both winners there. And trivia is brought to you by Applebee's. Choose from a variety of half-price late-night appetizers after 9 p.m. because half off is just more fun. Now, that's eating good in the neighborhood, void where prohibited, dine in only.
You know there's a Todd from Ogunquit now who's just devastated, right?
Yeah, he's like, oh, damn it. Sorry, it was Tom.
Come on, guys.
Tom.
I thought it was Todd.
Sorry, Todd.
Mike, have you ever heard of AI Obama?
No, I haven't heard from AI Obama. I haven't even heard of AI Obama. Tell me more.
So Allen Iverson Obama.
Got it.
No, it's what we're talking about here is the practice of deep faking, which is pretty much with artificial intelligence, generative AI now at the level it's at, and computing power at the level it's at. If you give the right computer and the right program a previous video and audio of any person, you can basically have that AI generate a video and audio of that person saying and doing something that they did not say or do. So as an example, if I had access to the right software, I could make a video of Mike saying that it was actually Todd who won and not Tom.
Right.
Just as something, very, very mild. Or I could make a video of Mike saying something far, that's a far bigger problem, like one that was generated of Oprah Winfrey saying that she was involved in the slave trade. These are rather problematic because, in general, human beings are not good at identifying what is real and what is not when it comes to deep fakes. The video fakes are that good now. So I don't really know how we solve this other than basically having to look at everything with a very critical eye and pretty much not believe anything. Start from an approach online of, I don't know if this is real or not. But ultimately, if it were up to me, this is one of the areas, and I know this is going to sound completely ludicrous, that I think blockchain can potentially be very useful in that if you have the authenticity of a video verified via blockchain to begin with, you can potentially have anything that is counterfeit or not real that obviously gets caught in that process then, because you can catch it through that authentication process. So I think there's something there, but that's kind of pie in the sky.
I would imagine. So there are detection tools that are used by professionals to determine deepfake videos, and certainly they are imperfect. But I would imagine we're not all that far away from having something like that integrated into a web browser.
What do you mean?
So there are ways. There are ways.
As a plugin?
Yeah, like as a plugin into a web browser, because there are detection tools that are used using it doesn't require a human being to basically look at the embedded video and audio and determine, hey, is this a deep fake or not? They look at things like, things that the human eye can't detect, such as, is the person's heart beating? Random things like that, just doesn't happen in these deepfake videos. So, hopefully eventually there's technology that catches up there, but I think you're absolutely right, Chuck, to start there, which is you have to just assume that anything you're getting from an online resource, I think you have to start from a point of questioning whether or not it is real.
Which, to be honest, you probably should be doing anyways.
Right, like AI hasn't changed that all that much. Right, before AI, there were lies online all over the place, and now it just makes them a little bit tougher to tell the difference. But you have to start with that premise. Tom Hanks, there was another one where somebody was, dental insurance company was impersonating Tom Hanks a few weeks ago. Where I go with this,
Mike, we had one on our show. Paul Lane said that the price of garlic was $7 a head.
Oh no, that was actually Paul.
That was real?
Yeah, confirmed.
But there are other areas of this that I get concerned about. So there are companies all over that use your voice as your password effectively, right? There are financial services companies out there, in fact, that when you call in, they check your voice against previous records of your voice and say, oh, is this Mike Armstrong? And with the ability of these audio deepfakes, it's not too difficult to grab, there's hours upon hours of my voice online. And so creating a, AI created version of Mike Armstrong would not be terribly challenging. So
it'd be kind of boring, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it would, but it would also be a pretty good way to be able to access my financial information, which I don't love all that much.
Yeah, I could get that.
Spouses generally serve as the beneficiary to your IRA or life insurance policy, but naming your estate the beneficiary has quite a few benefits. Your goal is to protect your assets from probate and the nursing home, and by naming your estate as a beneficiary, you can avoid the probate process, lessen the chance of creating any income tax issues on your RMDs, and enjoy enhanced estate tax reduction. Call Cushing and Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their brand new guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. Learn about these benefits and others and provide peace of mind for you and your family during your retirement years. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request the guide online by visiting their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Chuck, before we move on from this subject, we've talked about some things that were, identified quickly and relatively benign, but there is a real danger part here, right? Like the ability to imitate a sitting president and tell people that we're at war, the ability to factually misrepresent things that could cause genuine panic with these technologies is severe. And I'm sorry, the idea that the companies that create these products and then just put them out without any guardrails should be immune to prosecution is a little bit preposterous to me. This is as dangerous as, I'm trying to draw up a comparison here, but we don't hold companies harmless if they sell things that could be made into bad weapons without doing any sort of safeguards out there. And this isn't the exact same thing, but there are some parallels.
Well, I guess the real question is, what's the reason why you would want to make this piece of software? It doesn't have any meaningful use.
Right, what is the benefit of this?
Okay, so what's the world look like if I don't have this? It doesn't affect anyone's life if you can't replicate someone's likeness in its entirety.
Well, I mean, they use this technology in The Mandalorian, right? With the return of, spoiler alert, Luke Skywalker.
Yep.
They use that same technology for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did either of you guys see? It's been floating around online the last couple days. There's some Disney show that used really bad CGI for a crowd recently. It was just produced recently, And the whole thing was talking about, look, this is why like the Screen Actors Guild is on strike, is because they're nervous that Disney's going to replace all background actors with really bad CGI. And part of me is like, well, it looks so bad. Why? No one thinks this is good. But then you go down the path of, well, this is kind of the first iteration. Obviously, it's going to get better from there. So it's I don't know. I mean,
the most compelling argument I can think of is like, hey, we want to be able to create a movie or create a an entertainment piece using someone's likeness, and we have the right to do that, right? Some living actor granting the right to some company to reproduce him or her after they are deceased. And compared to the trade-offs of the other pieces that this can be used for, I'm just not sure it's worth the trade-off.
I don't know. I'd kind of like it if AI Chuck could do a couple shows a week.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think there'd be a drop-off in quality. It'd be fine.
Don't think too highly of yourself there,
No,
Chuck.
it'd be fine. I'm replaceable. It's okay. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Paul LaMonica right after this, talking about Pepsi.
Business and financial news affecting the markets and your wallet. We've got it all, straight from Wall Street, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The vibe like no other is back. The United States Virgin Islands, one of the top-rated destinations in the Caribbean, is making it nearly impossible for you to turn down booking a trip to St. Croix. For a minimum 5-night stay at participating resorts, you'll receive a $250 air credit per person over the age of 16. That could be up to $1,000 savings for a family of 4. Act now, because travel must be completed by December 31st of this year. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2023 when reserving your spot. St. Croix is known for its incredible history, world-class dining, gorgeous beaches, casinos, and golf. Winter is coming to New England, so visit usvi.com and head to America's Caribbean paradise. Enjoy the island of St. Croix and all it has to offer. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2023. Plan your dream vacation right now. That's visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2023. Beneficiary designations are critically important if you want your assets to be distributed efficiently and protected from probate or the nursing home. Naming your estate the beneficiary of an IRA or life insurance policy can offer significant benefits that include avoiding the probate process and enjoying enhanced estate tax reduction. It can also reduce the possibility of creating any income tax issues on your required minimum distributions. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new free guide called Why Name Your Estate an IRA Beneficiary. There's nothing more important than protecting your assets and providing lifelong comfort for your family. So call Cushing & Dolan today. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Required minimum distributions are a critical part of your retirement planning. The laws regarding these distributions has changed with the passing of the Secure Act 3 years ago, which means if you don't withdraw the proper amount when you're supposed to, you could face a 50% tax penalty. Hi, this is Susan Powers from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we don't want you to make that mistake. Let us help you learn about RMDs and how they work so that you can avoid these tax implications. Our firm has a brand new guide available right now called Understanding RMDs. In it, we'll walk you through the steps of calculating your RMDs so that you withdraw the right amount at the right time. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your copy of this new free guide, or request it right now from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K Boston. Let's meet their CEO, Mark Vonner.
I enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 18 years old, joining a long line of family members who also served our country. After my service, I connected with the VA healthcare systems where I attended meetings with disabled veterans and learned for the first time about the DAV. I was so impressed with the work they do to help millions of veterans, including providing necessary services like transportation, education, and financial opportunities. Today, I stand a proud partner of the DAV and the 2023 DAV 5K. My company, Veterans Development Corporation, is a general contracting firm working with many disabled veterans, and I hope that by sharing my story, many other disabled veterans will be able to reach their goals once they conclude their service.
Veterans Development Corporation is proudly partnered with this year's DAV 5K, taking place on Saturday, November 11th at Fort Independence in South Boston. To register for this year's race, visit dav5k.boston. Miss any of the show? You can catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon, where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. This year's DAV 5K is coming soon, Saturday, November 11th at Fort Independence at Castle Island. Registration's ongoing, but spots are going fast. You still have time to join us, so go to dav5k.boston and help support these great American heroes. That's dav5k.boston. The DAV 5K Boston is proudly presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
We're now joined by Paul LaMonica here to talk a little bit about Pepsi. But before we do that, Paul, the New England Patriots and New York Giants both sit at 1-4 right now. Does either team get to 4 wins this year?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think the Giants can get there, but I'm not optimistic that they're going to get win number 2 on Sunday night against my wife's beloved Buffalo Bills, who are smarting from that loss to Jacksonville. I think they're going to be an angry team, and Giants are going to be in a heap of trouble Sunday night. Hopefully I'm wrong, although for my marriage's sake, maybe if I'm right, that's better off.
There you go. Let's talk a little bit about Pepsi. What's been going on with them recently? I know they reported earnings earlier this week.
Yeah, Pepsi's earnings and revenue were very solid. Their outlook as well, and that helped reverse a pretty steep decline that Pepsi, Coke, and other snack and soft drink companies have suffered lately, because there's this growing fear that the rising popularity of Ozempic and other weight loss drugs, these injectable drugs, are potentially hurting demand for comfort food. Walmart, sparked this worry earlier this month when the top executive of Walmart's U.S. operations told Bloomberg that, they were seeing a little bit of a pullback. Pepsi's CEO said, no, it's a negligible impact so far, and that given the changes the company has made to portion sizes, packaging sizes, and, shifting to sugar-free, soft drinks and snacks, less sugar, less calories, that is not something that they're seeing a big impact from just yet. And Pepsi stock rallied on the news. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Coke has similarly good results when they report earnings, the week after next.
When we look at Pepsi, any areas of the business in particular that are doing better than others at the moment?
Yeah, I think that the non-traditional kind of core soda business, you are seeing better results from the snack side, the Frito-Lay side of the business. Also, they've been expanding into other areas, outside of soft drinks. Gatorade, of course, has been a core part of the Pepsi portfolio for some time now. I think Pepsi is definitely looking to branch out with other beverages that don't have the Pepsi brand, if you will, and that will definitely help the energy drink market, for example. But Pepsi has always enjoyed a bit of a premium to Coke when it comes to valuation and stock price because it does have that faster growing snacks business that Coke lacks.
Any thoughts that they may try to pick up any companies and grow through acquisition in order to move into new types of markets as a result of potential concern about their core businesses?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, there have been a fair number of acquisitions in the food and snacks business, but Pepsi and Coke have largely really stuck to their knitting and haven't made too many big deals to expand. It will be interesting to see whether or not that's an area for possible acquisitions going forward. I mean, Hostess Brands, the company most famous for Twinkies, not exactly the most healthy of food options. They just got scooped up. So that's there is definitely a lot of M&A in the food business, but Pepsi and Coke have been a little bit more conservative with regards to spending billions of dollars on other brands that they can tack on.
Very good. Paul, appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much for the time, and good luck this weekend in that Giants game. All right?
Yep. Yeah, I think the Dolphins might be the bigger concern in the AFC East, though, right now, but we'll see. They spanked
that Dolphins
us last
team,
week.
I got to say, that Dolphins team is fun to watch.
Tyreek, Tua, you got to like it.
Fun to watch. Paul, thanks again for joining us.
Have a good one, guys.
That is Paul LaMonica. Mike, do you know what the second biggest product by revenue is for Pepsi?
Doritos?
Mountain Dew.
Weird. You
Kinda
sure that's
gross,
not?
right?
You sure that's not just beverage? That's second overall.
No, this is including everything.
Wow.
Granted, the data that I have is like 7 years old, so I don't have up-to-date data. But it includes things like Doritos and Quaker Foods and Cheetos and Ruffles and all that stuff. And Mountain Dew was the second biggest at that point in time.
That does surprise me.
Yeah. Other
Other beverage news. Sobriety is in, and non-alcoholic beer sales are taking off for 4 years in a row now. You've had 30+% growth in the non-alcoholic segment, which I don't know. Lots of trends in the beverage space surprise me, and this one has as well. But there's definitely been a lot more movement in that space from, I don't know, when I was growing up, it was O'Doul's, and that was it.
Have you tried any of the non-alcoholic IPAs that every craft brewer is putting out now?
I've only tried the ones from Athletic.
Yeah, that's the one
but
that
they've
I've
been
tried.
impressive. They've been impressive.
They are impressive. I mean, they do a good job with them. I'll give them credit. I'm not sure that you necessarily love the advertisements that have people drinking these non-alcoholic beers in cars going to work.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yes.
Heineken thinks they're a little bit funnier than they maybe should be. But yeah, you do have that.
So maybe don't do that. But
real fast way to get pulled over.
Yeah. But in any case, markets have now moved into negative territory. The Dow is off 29 points. S&P's down 24 and NASDAQ down 165. So a sell-off heading into the afternoon. But we'll be back on Monday to let you know if it continues or maybe we get a little rebound this afternoon. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.